What's going on, guys? Overman back again, and in today's video I want to go over Destiny's brand new Sparrow Racing League. But before we get into some Sparrow Racing, I'd like to talk about Destiny's latest and undoubtedly greatest microtransaction thus far, the SRL Record Book. So if you don't know, the SRL Record Book will track all of your stats during the SRL event. Things like your wins, fastest times, the amount of tricks you land, etc. So by now you're probably wondering, why the hell is this a microtransaction? This is something that you can see for free in other games like GTA 5 for example. And honestly, I have no idea why they bothered with such a shitty microtransaction. I mean, Bungie might as well start up a Patreon and link us to that, and a GoFundMe page too. And while they're at it, why not do a Kickstarter as well? Cause I mean, this SRL Record Book is about as close as you can get to giving away your money to Bungie for nothing in return. And worst of all, it's to a company that doesn't even fucking need it. And of course, Bungie Vision didn't even price this record book reasonably, because as we know, it costs 1,000 silver, which amounts to $10, which is of course half the price of one of their expansions. I mean, to me, this is so ridiculous that I'm not even mad, because who the hell is gonna pay $10 for a fucking stat tracking? And yes, a few cosmetic rewards too, big whoop. I don't care about the stat book because to me, it doesn't offer me anything useful, so I'm not too mad about it. I'm not gonna buy it, and I don't recommend that anyone else buys it. But the thing that pisses me off is that it's just such a ridiculous price. And honestly, I would guess that they probably make more money by pricing the thing lower, like around $5 maybe? I think that it'd still be bullshit to pay for stat tracking, but I'm thinking that it would probably be more profitable that way than gouging the shit out of your fan base and trying to charge them $10 for this crap. But hey, what do I know? But what I do know is that Bungie has been one of the most widely criticized developers ever since they launched this game. So why in fuck's good name do they keep stoking the fire? I mean really, they're just asking for negative publicity with this bullshit. And I know it's not that big of a deal since you have lots of sources painting the game in a good light, but I mean still man, it just doesn't make sense to me. But you know what's the best part of all of this? The best part is that this record book will only work for this first event, not any of the subsequent events. Right there in the description we can see that it says it's good for this year's SRL event, not any of the other events. So if you want your stats tracked for the future events as well, then you'll need to pay another $10 for the SRL Record Book Volume 2. But besides this record book fuckery, there's of course some new emotes. So, you know, that's wonderful. I mean, if you like emotes, this must be your fucking game right here, man. I mean, if Destiny's got one thing, it's emotes. Oh, and you know the funny thing is, you know all those emotes that Bungie sold before this event? Yeah, well, they'll be dropping from the Nightfall now, so yeah. But on the bright side of all these microtransactions and the record book nonsense, we do get something for free, which is Sparrow Racing, of course. And we've been asking for this for a very long time, and now we finally have it. So, in the SRL event, there are a whopping 2 tracks, and on these tracks you'll race your Sparrow against 5 other Guardians for 3 laps. Now during the race you'll see these gates, and if you happen to drive through one of these gates you'll be awarded with a speed boost, and it'll also charge up your Sparrow's strafe ability, which is very useful. Now the interesting thing about these gates are that they vary in size depending on what position you're in. If you're in the lead, your gates will be much smaller than everyone else's. Likewise, if you're dead last, then your gates will be much bigger than everyone else's. The end result is that you're going to have to be really good to get in front and pull away with a big lead, if of course you have halfway decent opponents. But by the same token, if you're Lightning McScrubpants, it won't be too hard to get back into the race if you fall behind, since you'll basically have to try and miss the gates on purpose not to hit them. Now normally I would criticize the game for trying to water itself down by lowering the skill gap, but here I'm not mad about it at all, because Sparrow Racing isn't the main attraction in Destiny, it's a side attraction. Just something that you have fun on for a little while before you head over to the Crucible, only to find out that the auto rifles still suck. So for me, it doesn't really need to have a high skill gap, it just needs to be accessible and fun. And I have to say that I actually did have some fun in the Sparrow Racing League, mostly when I was fighting it out for first place with 1 or 2 other guys. Those moments can be very intense and exciting, and they're undoubtedly the high points of the Sparrow Racing League. Now I do have to mention that I really like racing games, and I've played a lot of them. I've played Crash Team Racing on the PS1, a bunch of Need for Speed games on the PS2, every Gran Turismo game to date, and most recently Project Cars on the PC. But despite me having fun here and just liking racing games in general, the SRL has quite a few problems that are holding it back in my opinion. So let's start with the biggest issue of all, replayability. Surprise, surprise, the newest piece of content in Destiny is fun for a little while, but it quickly loses its appeal. And that's for a few reasons. First off, remember when I said that it was okay for Sparrow Racing to be accessible and not to have too high of a skill gap? Those two things generally hurt depth and replayability. So what you do in order to compensate for that is add in a bunch of content, right? So yes, while the core gameplay might not offer that much depth and replayability, you have a bunch of different tracks to race on to vary up the experience and change things up, right? Well, like I said before, there's only 2 tracks here, so of course it's gonna get stale fast. But what makes this problem even worse is that in a lot of ways, these 2 tracks kind of blend together. What I mean is, I wish there was more variety in the types of turns on these maps because to me, they just feel too similar. Now, I'm not asking for the Nürburgring or anything like that, although how sick would it be if they gave us a destroyed version of the Nürburgring to race on Earth? That'd be sweet. But anyways, what makes the Nürburgring so great for me is the incredible variety of corners. It's got just about every type of turn you can imagine, and that makes it very interesting. Now, I'm not asking for an insane track like that in Destiny. I don't really think that it would fit in, especially because of one of the problems I'll talk about later, but a little more variety in the corners could have really helped with making the 2 maps that they did include feel a little bit more different. Now, that's not to say that these maps are super boring plain Jane tracks, because they do have some cool things in them that make them interesting. They both have their own jumps, drops, shortcuts, and hazards. My favorite one being those spinny blades on Mars that you have to dodge or else they'll wreck your face. Those are awesome, and I wish Venus had something as cool as that. You see, those spinny blades make the race very interesting, because while the mechanics themselves, aren't that complex like other racing games, that little section is very fun and intense because, you're dodging your enemies, you don't want to bump into them, and then, you both screw up, and you're trying to dodge the spinny blades and whatnot, and maybe you're trying to fuck them up a little bit so that they get screwed over. It's interesting, it makes it fun. That's the thing. I think the Mars map is way stronger than the Venus map because the Venus map is just, it's whack. It's just drive around, turn, whatever, And something else that made me not want to play Sparrow Racing anymore is that in quite a few races, it quickly went from the Sparrow Racing League to the Bumper Kart League. Sometimes you just got into a lobby with people that just for whatever reason keep crashing into one another. A lot of times people won't even brake for a corner, they'll just crash into you, send you flying into the corner, and then they'll be on their merry way because now they're going slower, right? I get that it's part of the fun and part of the skill gap to bump your opponents from time to time, especially when you want to bump them left or right so that they'll miss a gate and the speed boost, but there's a difference between dirty racing and fucking bumper cars. And speaking of annoying things, we gotta talk about Nolanbot, because he needs to shut the hell up during Sparrow Racing. And this really annoys me because it makes me wonder if they even played this shit before releasing it. What I'm talking about is, every time you enter first place, Nolanbot says something, and every time someone passes you to enter first place, he says something again. So, you remember when I said that it's fun to fight it out with the guy for first place? Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, you're gonna be trading first and second place constantly with your opponent, and because of that, you'll constantly hear Nolanbot give you shit for being in first place because now you're more of a target, he says, and then he'll give you some more shit for losing first place. So he's not only annoying, but he's also a fucking troll that can't make his mind up about what he wants in life. Like seriously, who the hell wrote that dialogue for him? They're either straight up incompetent or trolling us. Probably the latter. And Amanda Holiday, or whatever her name is, will also talk to you, but she's not as annoying. Now tell me if I sound crazy, but one thing I noticed about her is that her dialogue sounds really cheesy. It sounds like she's talking to a child. Like she'll give you these words of encouragement like, come on, you can do it, 1 lap left. Like, I don't know, it just sounds so childish. It sounds like she's talking to an 8-year-old. I'm not an 8-year-old, so I don't find her words encouraging or cool or badass or intense or anything like that. And speaking of intense and badass, the introductory sequence, when they show you and your opponents getting ready on your Sparrows and shit, they make it seem like this is Formula 1 Sparrow Racing or something, when it's not. It's just a little mini game. It's supposed to be for fun. It doesn't even make sense in the Destiny universe. Like, we're at war with the Taken and shit like that, and we decide, hey guys, let's go have a race. Why the fuck not? You know, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. I think the game mode takes itself too seriously, but that's a nitpick, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really diminish your experience. And finally, I like to talk about these Sparrow controls. I don't think the Sparrows handle all that great. Something about these controls just feel off to me. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. I really think that the controls and the just overall handling of these Sparrows can definitely be tightened up a lot, because they feel kind of loose and sloppy to me. And also, it's kind of weird that left trigger is what you use to go and right trigger is what you use to stop, because in most racing games that's the opposite, you know, like you use right trigger to go and then you use left trigger to stop. But whatever, that's just the Sparrow controls, I guess. But it would be nice if they gave me an option to change that up just for my Sparrow within Sparrow Racing, you know? So, final thoughts on Sparrow Racing. It's fun for a little while, but it's got a lot of problems and not anywhere near enough content to justify all of the bullshit microtransactions that we've been getting so far. You know, I see a lot of people defending the microtransactions, saying, yo, we're getting stuff for free in return, don't bitch about it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. And for a while I agreed. I was like, yeah, I don't like these emotes. I think they're stupid and whatnot. And yes, we have gotten something for free in return, but it's 2 freaking maps. Think about all the bank these guys are making off of people throwing their money at the screen on emotes, and this is what we get in return? 2 fucking Sparrow maps? Are you shitting me? While I think that the Sparrows offer a novel little experience, I don't think it was worth all the freaking emotes and this $10 record book here. I think that's bullshit. I don't know. I know that they're saving up a big update for later on in 2016, but man, this is kind of bullshit to me. I'm just saying. So, in conclusion, fuck microtransactions, and if you still have Destiny, hop on, try out Sparrow Racing if you got some free time within the next 3 weeks, because it can be fun, for a little while at least, and because thankfully it's free. It's the only free thing we've ever gotten from Bungie, so take advantage of it while you can. That's it for me though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to smash that like button. If you're not feeling shy, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the bullshit $10 stat book, and what you think about the SRL Racing League. I said SRL Racing League, that's funny. But anyways, if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But that's it for this one, guys. Overman out.